in our direction. Anyway, the moon is not what you think it is. If you put that into my website, you'll get a video presentation about the moon at greater length, and I've gone into it in much greater detail in Human Race Get Off Your Knees. And anyway, this was a book called Who Built the Moon by two researchers, and they wrote the book because there are unbelievable in scale and number anomalies relating to the moon that can't be explained. They can't be explained by the postage stamp. They say in the book that the maths involved in the Earth-Moon-Sun system is nothing less than staggering. The Gnostics said there was some special relationship between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun that we have today. And that the Moon had been put there with the accuracy of the proverbial Swiss watchmaker. There was a documentary on the BBC about the Moon, Do We Really Need the Moon? And it said that the moon is perfectly placed to sustain life, and if it was a bit further out or a bit closer, life as we know it on Earth would change. And they said that it was a cosmic coincidence. It wasn't. It's been put there on purpose. We've just had this eclipse. Well, when you look at the Earth during a full eclipse, from the Earth, the moon is the same size as the sun. And the reason for that is it's 400 times smaller than the sun and 4 times closer to Earth than the sun. The chances of that, statistically, are fantastic. We never see the far side of the moon. We only see one side of the moon. And they say in their book, the moon is bigger than it should be, apparently older than it should be, and much lighter in mass than it should be. It occupies an unlikely orbit and is so extraordinary that all existing explanations for its presence are fraught with difficulties, and none of them could be considered remotely watertight. They haven't got a clue where the moon came from or what it's doing there. One scientist from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics said the best explanation for the moon is observational error. The moon doesn't exist. Another one said, it seems easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence. Exactly. And when they've smacked the moon with massive bangs, having put seismometers on it first, it has reacted as if it was hollow. A NASA scientist said, it would seem that the moon is more like a hollow than a homogeneous sphere. Another scientist said that vastly improved knowledge of the moon's gravitational field indicated the frightening possibility that the moon might be hollow. And as Carl Sagan said, a natural satellite cannot be a hollow object. And also, this scientist said the moon is made inside out. What is on the surface of the moon should be inside. And a lot of ancient peoples, including the Zulus, they symbolized the moon as an egg because they said the yolk has been taken out of the moon. They say that the moon was brought by the gods. And there are tribal peoples in the world today who say their tribe goes back to before the moon came. The moon's not been here that long, and I strongly suggest that it was when the moon came that catastrophe happened and all the planets went walkabout. In 1970, these Soviet scientists from the Soviet Academy of Sciences wrote a long article headed, Is the Moon the Creation of an Alien Intelligence? And they concluded, and in doing so, answered anomaly after anomaly after anomaly, that actually the moon is a gigantic craft where everything goes on inside, and it's the home of an advanced civilization. What this guy, William Tompkins, says in his book, The Insider from Naval Intelligence, was that the moon is an alien base. And in principle, like the Death Star moon, everything goes on inside. It's a construct or part construct, maybe of a planetoid. What I've been saying over the years is it's an amplifier of this matrix information field, a bit like a broadcast dish, if you like. Now, we go back to this Charlie Project article, which I read just out of interest. I didn't know where it was going. Talked about what it said about the reptilian side of it. And again, this was written after I'd written my books about the moon. And this is what the entity said about the moon. The moon is not a natural heavenly body. Life was better for humans before the moon came. Moon forces control time and manipulate the mood of humans. The moon is there to control the Earth's mood, and a big calm would come over the Earth without the moon. There would be only little storms, not big storms. The old race, or cons in their various forms I would say, captured the moon from space and located it next to the Earth. That's what the ancient accounts and legends say. This entity said without the moon, people and animals would become calm and peaceful, and anxiety and fear would dramatically decline. The oceans would be much calmer, heavy thunderstorms and lightning would be rare, and the climate would be balanced with no extreme heat or cold. Telepathic and interdimensional communication would become widespread without the moon, and people would be able to see new colours in an advanced colour spectrum. Well, when near-death experiencers leave the body and go into a higher frequency state, they say the colours are much more vibrant and new colours they'd never seen before. Because if the moon wasn't there, this whole reality of ours would be operating on a higher frequency. It's suppressing our frequency. And that's what they're talking about with this colour spectrum. They're talking about interdimensional communication. It's suppressing our ability to expand our awareness. There would be major changes to the human respiratory system as blood and breathing chemistry changed. Those born after the moon's demise would be able to hold their breath underwater for hours at a time. Clearly, human potential is being massively suppressed. And I wrote a book years ago called Tales from the Time Loop, which is the concept that we're going round and round and round and round in a loop, thinking we're getting somewhere, but because we never live long enough to go the entire loop, we think we're going forward when we're going round and round and round. Work, buy, consume, die. Work, buy, consume, die. It's a program. And so this scene in the Matrix takes on a whole new sense of reality from what I'm talking about here. When Morpheus said, the Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out of your window or you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch, a prison for your mind. So it's not a human world, it's an Archon world, and we need to take it back. And now, bringing it to current events, this is a very, very important section of the day. The idea is to assimilate human consciousness into this hive mind, or Quantic awareness, in the same way they've done with the Greys, in the same way they've done with certainly some reptilians, in the same way they've done with others elsewhere. That Chani entity said humans were more evolved spiritually than the reptiles, but they suppress humans with their technology. Their God is their technology. Whoa, is that going to be relevant? And we come to transhumanism, the fusion of humanity with technology. It's supposed to turn us into superhumans. It's designed to turn us into subhumans and non-humans. I've got a chapter in my book, Phantom Self, called Transphantomism. Oh, God, that's a weak bottle, isn't it? Look at me. Yeah. Oh, it's cooled me down, though. What a weak bottle that was. Transphantomism. And I call it transphantomism because this transhuman agenda of technology is designed to take us beyond Phantom Self, which has been the control system to this point, and complete the job of entrapping human awareness. By connecting the human mind to technology, which would be controlled by AI. Some people call it artificial intelligence. I call it augmented intelligence for reasons I'll come to. We have to be disconnected from this, otherwise the game's up. And this is what transhumanism is all about. This is the spokesman for Frankenstein, called Ray Kurzweil, one of these complete mad people operating out of Silicon Valley, which I call the devil's playground. He's an executive with Google. Google is a monster. It's not just involved in controlling the flow of information through its search engine, it's also fundamentally connected to transhumanism. And this is the driving force of transhumanism, which works very closely with DARPA, with Facebook, and all these other Silicon Valley expressions of evil. DARPA is the technological development arm of the Pentagon. It gives us things like death rays. Another way, we haven't got enough ways of killing people. There's a DARPA spokesman. They're completely mad, but they are running our world. DARPA, Google, Facebook, and some of these other major corporations controlling the internet are all one unit. Google was seed funded by the CIA. And here's a connection, Regina Duggan. She was head of DARPA. She then made a very strange career move and became an executive of Google. And last summer she moved to become an executive of Facebook. All of them working in transhumanist technology. She's at Facebook to develop technologies that fluidly blend physical and digital worlds, humans to technology. Facebook shares brain control ambitions. It's DARPA that's driving this out of the Pentagon. All these big names, including Amazon, they're all different names with the same master. Facebook conducted widespread experiments on user data to alter people's behaviour. A whistleblower within Facebook made that public. Now, I thought they were just a social media operation, right? No. Tech giants, artificial intelligence, monopoly, possibly the most dangerous in history. Exactly it is. Anyone believe that Google, Facebook, IBM, Apple, all building machines to outthink the human mind is all a coincidence without an ultimate goal? Of course not. How do we get there? We turn them into robots connected to a hive mind. That's what this is about, and it's unfolding in front of our eyes. We've had groups of entities, if you like, assimilated into this hive mind, and now they want to take humanity into it. Humanity and AI, the assimilation of humanity into the archontic distortion. And a lot of sci-fi is telling you what's happening or going to happen in the form of apparently fictional stories. And in Star Trek, you had the Borg. The Borg was symbolic of the Archons and the Archon-assimilated races, the transhumans. They were part flesh and they were part technology. And the Borg flew around in black cubes. There's one passing Saturn, aptly. And this is the Borg. The Borg are a collection of species that have been turned into cybernetic organisms functioning as drones in a hive mind called the collective or the hive. The Borg use a process called assimilation to force other species into the collective by injection of microscopic machines called Nanoprobes. And their mantra was, resistance is futile. This is Peter Diamandis, co-founder of the Singularity University. The singularity in this sense is the moment that basically AI becomes greater than human consciousness, well, mind. Co-founder of the Singularity University with Frankenstein's best mate, Ray Kurzweil. Diamandis said, anybody who is going to be resisting the progress forward to transhumanism is going to be resisting evolution, and fundamentally they will die out. It is not a matter of whether it's good or bad, it's going to happen. In other words, resistance is futile. It isn't. Well, we don't want to resist, we just want to stop it happening. Now, these nanoprobes, talked about in the Borg stories, are actually with us now. They're called nanobots, and nanoids, and nanites, and nanomachines, and various other things. And they can assemble and maintain sophisticated systems and build devices, machines or circuits through a process called molecular manufacturing. They can also produce copies of themselves through self-replication. These nanoids, nanoprobes, have also got the name smart dust. Everything is called smart these days because everything's smart. It's connected to everything else called smart. Also called neural dust, digital dust. These are tiny electronic particles for wireless communication between each other and with anything they connect with. What they're doing in the military is doing experiments by putting this smart dust, neural dust, into people's brains and then remotely abusing them from and controlling them from a distance. That's what we're talking about. This is from the promotional material of smart dust. Smart dust infusing all matter can recognize an individual anywhere they are, to the extent that their computer can be automatically turned on when they walk through the door at work, and the elevator can automatically open at the right floor. Well, you know, the control systems of today look a bit sick when you compare them with that. And this is what Kurzweil said. Nanobots will infuse all the matter around us with information. Rocks, trees, everything will become these intelligent creatures. Well, they already are, but you ought to try it, darling. You might see what you're bloody doing. Actually, you do see what you're doing. Kurzweil said, with robots in our brains, we'll be godlike. No, we'll be robots, and he frickin' knows it. Now, declassified documents suggest that many of us have superhuman powers. Well, thanks for telling us. I'd never realized it. And these superhuman powers of consciousness are exactly the powers that this crowd have worked to suppress. And now they're telling us they want to make us superhuman through technology. Well, why don't they let us be superhuman without the suppression? It's a nonsense. He said humans will have hybrid cloud-powered brains by 2030. His timescale is getting shorter now. He said our thinking will be a hybrid of biological and non-biological thinking. Humans will be able to extend their limitations and think in the cloud, think in the AI. In other words, AI thinks instead of you. We're going to put gateways into the cloud in our brains. We're going to gradually merge and enhance ourselves. In my view, that's the nature of being human. We transcend our limitations. And he says, as the technology becomes vastly superior to what we are, then the small proportion that is still human gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it is utterly negligible. He's describing the assimilation into what they call AI, but I see it differently to what they're claiming it is. New computers could delete thoughts without your knowledge, experts warn. Once we're connected to the computers, that's what they can do. Suddenly you have destroyed history, memory of everything, and you start from a blank sheet. You can make it be whatever you want it to be. This is the devil's playground, and I ain't exaggerating. A Dharma Insider reveals coming of the hive mind control grid. They started to talk about it. So the idea is that we are connected to this cloud, this artificial technological information construct, and the cloud does our thinking, and human thinking is gone. And this is what it's really meant to do, to put a massive block between the mind, body-mind, and consciousness beyond the body-mind, so that becomes entrapped indefinitely. And beware the simulation double bluff. You know, a lot of these people who are pushing this transhuman agenda are now coming out and saying, actually, we live in a simulation. Well, yeah, the evidence is what we do, but that's not where they're coming from. They want to use this simulation idea to, oh yeah, so let's be the best of it. Let's use the best of it by going down this technological road. What they never tell us is, yes, we may be in a simulation. I think we are in a simulation. But that's not what we are. We are consciousness beyond it. Elon Musk, humans must merge with machines or become irrelevant in the AI age. This is the Elon Musk who's saying it's so dangerous AI, it could destroy humanity. Well, we better do it anyway. Yeah, okay. So I've been calling this cloud over the years the technological sub-reality. And it's based on Wi-Fi, this cloud. For this complete control of the human race through technological means, they have to have the cloud everywhere through Wi-Fi. And that's why they're putting up satellites, often with no prospect of economic gain or even getting their money back, to fire Wi-Fi at the Earth from satellite, to invade the entire Earth in Wi-Fi. Google to Wi-Fi entire Earth with 180 satellites. Introducing the outer net, free worldwide Wi-Fi access beamed from space. And a few months ago, was it last year now, time flies, even though it doesn't exist, Facebook, you remember when that rocket exploded at Cape Canaveral? It was an Elon Musk rocket from his SpaceX operation, and it was a Facebook Wi-Fi satellite. That's a social media operation, isn't it? Which was going to bathe sub-Saharan Africa in Wi-Fi. I'm sure people in destitution, the thing they really want is Wi-Fi, so they can watch CNN. I'm sure that's what they want. What they're going to watch it with is quite another thing, but as long as they're in the Wi-Fi zone, it doesn't really matter. India set record, 104 satellites launched aboard a single rocket. This is what's going up there now. And what they want to create is this cloud, this sub-reality, which humans would be technologically attached to, and the entire Earth would just be a gigantic technological control system. Google, NASA put big money into D-Wave's quantum computer. What they're doing is creating a mini simulation within the simulation, but much, much smaller in its possibility to put humans in an even smaller box and finally attach us to the technology. And another name for this cloud reality is the smart grid. Everything's called smart. Smart TV, smart phones, smart watches, smart meters, smart dust, smart pills. And everything that is smart is connected to, or can actually electronically connect to everything else that is smart. Smart phones, I'm watching you, I'm listening, smart TVs, smart meters to put this stuff in your homes and businesses. And they're justifying it to an extent by climate change. And the sub-realities, smart cities, are the human settlement zones. That's what these smart cities are they're talking about. Here's a CIA signature school in creating total surveillance smart cities, which is operating in New Mexico. And the idea is to create a control grid in which these cities are completely controlled by AI, and humans can do nothing that AI does not want to allow them to do. Total surveillance. And to make this happen, they need 5G, 5th generation, 5G technology, Wi-Fi. And it's going to cause such mental, emotional, and health catastrophes because of what it is. 5G, because it can't travel very far, requires transmitters everywhere. Millions and millions of them, and it operates on the same frequencies as crowd control weapons that make people's skin burn. And this is the level of Wi-Fi that they need to make this grid happen. And they're starting to bring 5G in now, in places like California, and they're letting the corporations set the safety limits. In other words, there aren't any. And we need to really get our asses in gear about this 5G, because if this can be stopped, then the whole thing can be slowed down. Where was I with that? Go back. Go back. Not going back. Anyway, what they want to do and what they are doing is changing our atmosphere by pouring radiation into it from endless forms. And this, our content distortion, feeds off radiation. It's one of its energy sources. So what's bad for us is good for it.